Giving you PTSD yet? Well, that's probably the song we're going to be hearing by the end of the Dutch Grand Prix. That doesn't mean we're not going to be getting big upgrades from every team, but the team with the Dutch driver and the Mexican driver. They're not getting that many upgrades, but the big teams like McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Aston Martin are all bringing pieces here, and some teams bigger than others. So what's to be expected? What are the big packages coming? Let's go over them, and let's see if this can actually change the pecking order, because some teams actually claim it will. Let's start off with the McLaren team, which, to be honest, they should be bringing packages that are pretty big to every single Grand Prix from now on. They focused a lot of time, they didn't put that many upgrades into their real beginning of the season because they put all of their effort into Austria, Hungary, Silverstone, and Belgium. In these Grand Prix, they've brought all kinds of pieces. Mainly consisted of the side pod pieces, working a little bit on their floor, but nothing has really been introduced as the rear wing. Now we know in Monza they're going to be bringing a piece, but here in Zandvoort they're probably going to bring some track-specific stuff. They should be a pretty strong car here, and I actually expect McLaren to be fighting towards the top here. They've been very fast in high speed and medium speed corners. Now Zandvoort does have some slow speed, and this is where they struggle. And now we actually have an idea as to where the McLaren car struggles. It struggles going into the corner, making the U-shape, the regular racing line. It's a lot better at doing those V-shapes, the kind of Vettel way of driving, and really focusing on your exit and going into that straight. Lando Norris says he hates that. He does not like that the car is so particularly bad in doing normal turning, because that's something that he actually likes a lot more. So it kind of gives us an idea of where they need to work on, definitely on that balance, and just really overall performance enhancements. Zach Brown has even claimed they're going to be pushing until the end of the really season to catch Red Bull. So let's see if these claims come to fruition and McLaren can be big here on a really big Grand Prix for them. Next team is Ferrari, who's not expected to be bringing huge packages, but maybe some track-specific parts. But I do have a rundown of the plan that they will be going through for the second half of the season. So for Ferrari and Frederick Vasseur talking, what they're looking at right now in their wind tunnel, like what are the projections? Can this team bring it on even more? Well, they project 2 tenths going into Singapore, 2 tenths in Dakota, and 4 tenths by the end of the season. So a whole 8 tenths gain going into the 2024 season. These are their claims. Their actual packages are getting finished in COTA, and going into 2024, they expect to be 8 tenths up. As of right now, these are the projections that Frederick Vasseur has brought up. We could see some track-specific parts. I guarantee in Monza they're probably going to bring some nasty wing, but nothing very game-changing in the aerodynamic efficiency. They say setup is very important, that they need to work on their setup even more, and I believe it. When the setup window is right for Ferrari, they're actually a pretty decent car. That's only when the setup is in the right window, so I gotta see where Ferrari's going with this. But good news, they are bringing parts for the rest of the season, and we can expect the car to be looking a lot better going into 2024. Hopefully this stands really true to its statement, because I would love to see Ferrari at the top. 2022 was awesome in the beginning because of that, so I hope to really Ferrari can continue that trend that they had in 2022 and not what they did in 2023. Before we get into Mercedes and Aston Martin, I just wanted to say I love you guys for supporting the channel. It genuinely means the world to me, and if you're not subscribed and you haven't liked the video, please give it a go. It would mean the world for me. Anybody that subscribes, you guys genuinely are the best, and it really means a lot for the people that are subscribing and liking. So thank you so much. Let's get into Mercedes. Now, Mercedes is another team bringing a pretty big chunk of parts. Now, they brought a pretty big upgrade that was significant in the Belgium Grand Prix, upgrading its side pod, trying to add to the rear. Yes, they got a little bit of porpoising, but this doesn't necessarily mean that the Mercedes car is in a bad state. They say it was a setup problem. I kind of think so as well. I do not think that this was an actual issue going down for them in really the whole entire season for the rest of it. And it was good signs that in Belgium, they actually had somewhat of a chance with fighting with Ferrari, and they maybe could have caught Perez if, I guess, everything went right. But regardless, a pretty good Grand Prix for them in a Grand Prix that was not supposed to be good. Now, Zandvoort, though. Now, here is where I think Mercedes has an opportunity to really fight for that P2, P3 position. We already know Max Verstappen is about to grill the grid, as Formula One talks about. But that does not mean that Lewis Hamilton is not there to pose a challenge. A safety car, maybe a little bit of good luck. I mean, I'm being a little bit too hopeful, but regardless, it's nice to be hopeful in a season that's been pretty boring. I'd like to see a different winner. I'd also like to see Max get his 9 wins in a row. So I'm on the edge, but it'd be nice to see if this Mercedes car can actually step it up. The upgrades that are actually coming, supposedly, the rumor right now is that an actual floor upgrade is coming. The actual underfloor itself is getting upgraded. They do have parts coming. They're still focusing on this W14, but the W15 is really the main practice. And they say that they found a good floor compromise for it, like the actual ride height, because the ride height is kind of making an issue for every other team, and Red Bull has just nailed it right on the noggin. So good for Red Bull, bad for Mercedes. Hopefully a good trend continues in their upgrade system because they need it going into really the 2024 season. Last team is Aston Martin, and they're bringing the biggest parts here to the Zandvoort Grand Prix. And what are these parts? Well, Mike Crack claims these parts will get them back into P2. Now that's a big, tall task to ask. My reasoning being, they were pretty behind in tracks that I guess have a similar layout. Silverstone, in a way, has a similar layout to Zandvoort. It's kind of got its own real thing. Hungary is also kind of similar to it in a lot of ways. So it's an in-between of those two tracks. Can they be strong there? They should be. It's got some rear parts, it's got some front parts that are very oriented towards that car. But honestly, bringing these parts is a big thing for them because they've been kind of regressing in the upgrade battle. So now they're bringing some big stuff. Mike Crack making some big claims. The guy has been pretty silent all year when it comes to, oh, don't overhype us, don't do this. So if he's saying P2, I gotta believe what the guy's saying. I mean, it's gotta be a pretty big thing. And the rumored parts that are coming for this car is work on the underfloor big time, a huge floor upgrade kind of like they did in Canada, working on the actual side pod, working also on the undercut in the side pod, and some more parts to the front wing. Now, this is all rumored to be coming from Zandvoort to Singapore. Somewhere in between there, we're gonna be getting a huge upgrade package, and I'm assuming maybe 2 big packages because they say they have a lot of budget left. They wanna keep working on this car, and their focus is still kind of split between 2024 and 2023. I mean, they have a good direction. Keep using the car that they have. Go into 2024 using the same car, but a much more upgraded car. They could be catching Red Bull if they find more loopholes and really go innovative on their car. Because there still is a lot to improve. Their car is really not that far behind. In the beginning of the season, and on races like in Canada, they were only a 10th behind per race pace to the Red Bull. And that's also with Alonso saving for fuel and a lot of other factors going into it. They can have a really strong car, and I really do believe that this Aston Martin team can take that next step to be fighting for a championship in 2024. So here's where it becomes big. Second half of the season, summer break is over. You gotta step it up, take it to a new level. This is to see where Aston Martin really steps up, and I expect big time things from the team in green. And I'd like to know your thoughts down below to all these upgrades. Do you expect any team to jump? Will McLaren be the quickest? Which team will be the quickest? I have McLaren being the quickest unless these Aston Martin upgrades make a miracle happen. I think McLaren will be very fast here. I think Mercedes will be competing as well. It should be close in qualifying. I actually think we could get a different pole position, but everything else will be very, very close. So let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like, subscribe. It'd mean the world, and peace.